Thank you for joining us again here on another episode of Get Ready News. My name is Mark Lindsted. This is my brother David Lindsted. And we're here to present some news articles on our show that come with a biblical worldview, or how should we see these as a Christian, and also where we might find some of these things located in the Bible, because we know the Bible, when it was written, was more than 25% prophecy. So as we see things unfolding here in what we consider the end times, we can show you biblically where we think all of these come to play.
Exactly, and just to be able to look at the world through a biblical worldview and interpret what's going on and seeing what we have in store, where are we headed with this, and how should a Christian react to these things?
Sure. And today we're going to cover a few subjects. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pride Month and things of that nature. We're also going to cover a little bit about the debate.
Yep.
And I think I can show an interesting place biblically where we might see exactly what's happening in our debates and in our world as we see certain leaders coming forward.
Yeah, the debate was a very, very unique thing. It went the way I expected to go. But, it didn't ever seem like the answers have changed in the last 4 years. It sounded like both parties were just reciting the points they've had for the last 4 to 8 years.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see where they think they don't need to provide a better answer.
Oh, yeah.
It's strange to me to consider that the answer you gave me 4 years ago is the same answer you want to give me today.
Yeah.
And the lying.
Oh, my, unbelievable.
I just never in my life would I picture, as a young man growing up and going through government class and being a very patriotic person, I never in my life would have believed that a president, because both of our former presidents would lie so much. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think one side lied near as much as the other.
I agree with that, but the thing that I thought would have been fantastic, if CNN was a real news broadcasting company, they should have had a screen on the back, and every time someone told a lie, you could have checked this in real time.
Yeah.
And you could have just said, see, no, what you said was a complete fabrication.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't. And I noticed the questions were asked from a point of view that assumes stuff.
Yeah.
For instance, somebody would say, because climate change exists, then we ask you this question, and they kind of box you in. If you say yes, you're wrong, or you say no, you're wrong. They kind of however they want to spin it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, our first thing we're going to cover is the Pride Month.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I've always wondered this. Here we have the resurrection of Jesus. It's one day. Mm-hmm. The Christmas, you could argue, was more than one day. It might be a week, but it's really pretty small, and people don't even associate Christmas and Jesus that much anymore.
Well, we take a week for spring break.
Oh, yeah. and these guys get a whole month. In fact, I saw a calendar that shows every single day for each letter of the alphabet. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and the interesting part of this whole thing is, the first Pride Month happened when Satan fell from heaven, when Lucifer was cast out of heaven for being prideful, for saying, I will be like the Most High, I will receive worship. And you notice he didn't say he would be above, he said he would be like unto. Yep. Because you can't be above God. God is the above all. There's nothing above God.
Yeah, God created Satan. There's no way for Lucifer to ascend above God.
Yeah. And let me tell you right now, Lucifer is not the brother of Jesus Christ. I don't care what culture you're a part of. He is not the brother of Jesus Christ.
The other thing I find interesting is they chose to call themselves Pride.
Yes.
And name that Pride. And you think about that, and you look about in the Bible, and the Bible always says what happens before a fall. Pride happens before a fall. So not only are we emphasizing certain sins here, we're also naming it with one of the biggest sins.
Yes.
And if you look at Sodom and Gomorrah, they actually had a descent.
Yes.
And pride was their very first problem, was pride.
Well, and it's interesting as you look through Romans chapter 1, you start to see how a nation becomes under divine judgment.
Yep.
And you start to see the things falling apart in society and the immorality, and then finally they're given over to a reprobate mind. And I don't know if you've ever tried to debate somebody, or not even debate, just even have a simple discussion with somebody that's on this side of the aisle. I think that some of them have already been given over to the reprobate mind because they can't even contemplate truth.
Yeah. And then instead of talking with you and having a discussion, they accuse you of you being hateful.
Yes.
Just because I don't agree with your point of view doesn't mean I hate you.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't hate me just because I have a different point of view than you.
Yeah. And, you know, that wasn't something that was happening in this country my whole life growing up. It was never, if you disagree with me, you hate me. In fact, I remember my best friend and I disagreed on all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
And maybe not political disagreements, but we disagreed with who won the battle of the Hot Wheels or whatever. But we didn't hate each other.
You know, and as far as it goes, when I'm discussing Bible issues, and there's a lot of stuff that not everybody agrees on. We all agree on salvation and how that, the death on the cross and the resurrection. But there's other little things that we kind of disagree on. But I've always been under the thought that iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And we are trying to study this out, and we're honing each other and working out what do we really believe. And these people on this side of the aisle don't want to have any conversation at all.
Well, for being a group that's all about tolerance, they're very intolerant.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's really an interesting point because they want to come and force you to say, well, I want to be accepting, I want to be tolerant, I want to hear your point of view. And so they give their 10-minute spiel on why they think love is love is love and how they think everything that they're doing is correct. You say, okay, well, here's my point of view. And the moment you start to talk, you're a hateful person.
Yep. Or they're trying to drown you up, scream above you, not let you speak. I don't know how many times we've seen people go into campuses to speak about something and the other side is yelling and won't let them even talk.
Well, my favorite part of this is we're at a university where this is happening. This is at a university, a place of higher learning and study.
Yep.
And the people that are screaming are yelling, "You're a fascist."
Yep.
Do they not know the definition of fascism?
I don't think so. In fact, there was one video I think you and I watched where the girl was yelling about this guy. He's a fascist, and the guy says, "Well, what makes him a fascist?" "Well, I don't know, but he is one."
Yes.
So, well, do you know what a fascist is? Well, it doesn't matter. He is one.
Yeah. Fascists yell over people and try to use authority and power to stop you from talking. Let me see. Who might be the fascist in this situation? And it's crazy. I just don't understand it. And to say, okay, Mark, we're talking about Pride Week. We're talking about this. Well, where do you find it in the Bible? It's very simple. I think you can find it in 2 Timothy 3. And beginning in verse 1, it says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come." I think we're in perilous times.
Yep.
It says, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasting, proud, blasphemers." Have you seen some of the things they write on these signs about God? You talk about blasphemy. They'll be disobedient to their parents. They'll be unthankful. They'll be unholy. They'll be without natural affection.
Yeah.
They'll be truce breakers, false accusers. Wow, that's huge right now, false accusations. Incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded. Remember that they come from a place of, well, I'm on a higher plane than you. I have a better idea than this. I'm more enlightened than you are. That's why this is okay. And then here it is, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. And they're thinking for their flesh.
Yeah.
They're pleasing their flesh. They're not pleasing God. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. It's so crazy. In verse 6 it says, For this sort are they which creep into the houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. I mean, could you get any more exact?
Right, and showing you exactly what's going on. A lot of these protests and stuff, if you go out there and see, they're actually lots of middle-class white women that are out there that are being engulfed in this because they want to love everybody.
Yes.
They want to comply, and by doing that, they're compounding the issue.
Well, it's virtue signaling.
Yeah.
And it makes my heart so heavy to see these people carried away with such silliness.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of virtue signaling, this next slide shows how different companies, and this is just a very, very small portion.
Yes.
I had a slide that had 50 of them on there, but I didn't. I chose not to do it. But all these companies changed their logo for this month. But interestingly enough, they only change it in progressive countries.
Yes.
Middle Eastern countries, Islamic countries, they still stay the old logo. I wonder why.
Interesting to think of. Maybe because they would lose business?
They would lose business. They would probably lose people.
Yes.
These people would be thrown off of the building.
Well, they'd
I'm
be thrown
telling
out
you.
of the country, too, as a business, I'm assuming.
Yep. So here we have virtual signaling at the highest level. But one of the things that really got me is this next article here. Since 2017, the number of elected LGBT officials jumps 200%.
Wow. Wow. Well, so there's a couple of things we can take from this, I think. First of all, I think we can see that people may be voting for them, trying to prove that they're not biased against their lifestyle. But also at the same time, how many people are really this way, or are they claiming to be this way to earn that vote? I mean, politicians would never lie to get a vote, would they?
Absolutely not. I've never known a politician to lie. But, the thing that I look at on this and seeing these people getting into office, I look at the school boards.
Yeah.
Local school boards, even in the great conservative state of Kansas that votes blue sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
We have people that are taking over school boards and allowing this type of stuff to be taught in schools. I've seen slide after slide where they bring these rainbow flags to school and have them chant their allegiance to gay people, and it's just unreal.
One of the teachers, her student says, "Hey, I don't see a flag to do the Pledge of Allegiance to." She says, "So there's a flag in my class to pledge allegiance to, and it was the pride flag."
Yep.
And I was watching a video, I think Dr. Lindsted, our uncle, had it on his program where there was a transvestite, and very emotional, very tearful, said, "You're not going to change your city, but we are going to change your city, and your children are going to change your city, and your children are going to love us, and they're going to be with us." So we can see it's a direct attack on the children.
Exactly. And there's even one where all these gay guys are singing this song, "We're coming after your children."
Yeah.
And they make fun of it, but at the same time, it's true.
Yeah.
And this is coming from the inside out. You get
Yes.
in the school board, and they have real power.
Yes.
As a parent, you have no power, but the school board does.
Well, it's really interesting to see watching these school board meetings happen, especially with these very progressive school boards, because parents will show up who are against what's happening, and they'll bring in some of the books that the school board has said is proper for these children to be reading, and it describes explicit sex acts between men.
Oh, yeah. And they can't even read them in the meeting because they're too profane. They're shut down. But yet it's in the library
Yeah,
for
it's
them.
perfect for a 10-year-old boy to pull this out. It's perfect for a 10-year-old to read how it's okay for a man and a boy. I mean, we're talking pedophile type stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they're coming from the inside. And we kind of alluded to it earlier. We were looking at the presidential debate. And I watched most of it's what I could stomach last night. And we've got some clips and stuff, but we can see that these people are coming from the inside.
Yes.
And I look at the presidential spot, kind of, right now I feel like we just have someone as a placeholder.
Oh, yeah.
And so these other ideas can now come forth.
Yeah. Well, and I think it really, as you see the presidential debate and as you see what's happening in our schools and what's happening in our society, I think that I can point biblically to where I see some of this happening. And I think if we consider what's happening, and I would say that we're coming into a situation where I know that the European Union voted right, and I know they voted to the right side, less progressive, more strength. And I think that right now America would probably vote that same way. But I think what we're seeing is weak leaders.
Yep.
And weak leadership bleeds everywhere.
You know, when I see this person here, and I think back to what Obama said, if I could be in a basement with a microphone and a hearing thing in someone's ear and I could tell them what to do, you know, I sure would like to do that. And I think this is the perfect person for that issue. I'm not saying Obama's doing that, but.
Well, I better tell you right now, I still think, and this is, I don't have any proof. There might come some proof. I still think that somehow they either had prior knowledge of the questions because he had some answers prepared that kind of sounded coherent.
Yeah.
But this is the best. Let's just play it. Let's
play this one. This is some of the things that went on during the debate, and we'll just play them and react to them here. Here's our first one.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
That was unbelievable because I will admit I have a stutter problem and sometimes I can get tripped up on words, but he is always searching for something to say, and then he says this at the end, and I can't even make out what he says in the last part of that sentence.
Well, I find him to, in my opinion, makes a little bit of a Freudian slip here in a way. Because the first thing he said was, we're talking about border security, we're talking about immigration. He says, well, when we get to a total ban, wait a minute, that's not what his party runs on, is a total ban of immigration, is it?
No.
So is that somewhere in the back of his mind that that's what he's looking to do? Is he lying about the border? And then I remember he said, the border patrol officers have endorsed me.
Oh, yeah.
Blatant lie.
They even came out on Twitter or X and said, we have never and we will never endorse him.
I mean, this guy is gold when it comes to just saying whatever he wants to say. You know, remember, he graduated top in his class with 3 degrees on full academic scholarship. Yeah. And then he had to come out of the presidential race because they found out he graduated 76th out of 84 on a partial scholarship and got 1 degree.
Too much lying, and people couldn't take him. And here he is doing that again. But what's even more telling than that is the picture you see behind us. That was him when he wasn't answering a question. He was lost. His mouth was always gaped open, and this split screen didn't do him justice at all.
Yeah. Well, I think we can see here in 2 Timothy, he likes to boast, but he boasts about things that he never did. Mm-hmm. I think he's high-minded of himself. I think he's a false accuser, and I think he's unthankful and unholy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, pure vision of what's happening.
Yep, that's for sure. He is kind of a slippery snake in my book. He's done so many things, and one of the questions I think he said, told Trump you're a convicted felon, and of course Trump has been convicted in the state of New York, and it hasn't been. It's not finalized yet. He hasn't been through all that yet. But if this man wasn't in office, he probably would be in front of a judge, you would like to hope.
President Trump kind of alluded to that you know, well, you're still in office, just wait till you're out. And here's the one thing I wish that Trump would have said to Joe Biden was, you graduated law school and you still don't understand that I'm not a convicted felon until I'm sentenced for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to be found guilty, but he's not convicted till the judge sentences him. And guess what's been put on hold?
Yeah.
And why has it been put on hold? The Supreme Court just ruled you cannot find somebody guilty on some crimes here and there and then combine them to make a unanimous decision.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what the judge told the jury to do.
Yes.
If you find he did something wrong here or here or here.
And it doesn't matter what he did wrong. No, just if you think he did something wrong.
Then you have to find him guilty. And that's
now I'm not condoning whatever happened. No. I'm not condoning the behavior, but I am saying that you cannot weaponize our judicial system against your political opponent. Yeah. And I think Mr. Trump made a very good argument that he is being persecuted. And I think the best thing was the look on Biden's face when he said, that's okay. You made my numbers go up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here's another instance. This is one where Biden's talking about something, and he kind of gets lost, and he ends up saying something that just really opened the door up for Trump.
Yeah.
I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
This is, you see Biden, he's fumbling with his words. He's losing his train of thought. He's lost by the end. And he says something that's very, very bad way of putting something. And he says, we beat Medicare.
Yes.
And Trump just hammers that and says, yeah, you did beat it. You ruined it.
Well, here we are. We're overloading Medicare with people who've never helped pay for Medicare.
Yes.
That's first thing off the bat. We're overloading it. It's going to crash. And I think that the progressive side of politics wants it to crash because they want a socialized medical system.
Yes.
And they keep claiming Canada's so good. And if you listen to anybody from Canada, they're saying, no, you don't want this. It's rotten. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting that he said he have 1,000 trillionaires. Well, there's nobody that's made trillionaire yet. So
No.
he corrected himself to say 1,000 billionaires.
Right.
Quick Google search. There are 756 billionaires in America, not 1,000.
So we're off by 240 some.
And then here's the funny thing: $1 billion. I'm just paying your fair share. I'm so tired of hearing paying your fair share. If you make $1 billion, what is 8.5% of $1 billion? Think about that. 8.5% of of 1,000 million. Mm-hmm. That's $85 million. I think 8% is a high tax to pay.
The other thing is as high as that is, what is that in a drop of the bucket compared to our debt? We're putting 100 days $1 trillion in debt.
Well, and $500 billion is what he's going to raise by. That's nothing.
Over 10 years.
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
But what I was trying to get at is, okay, so let's say that you make $100,000 and your effective tax rate's 25%. Okay, yeah, I'm paying a higher percentage of my income.
But far less
But
dollars.
it's $25,000,
Yeah.
not $85 million. I mean, just put your head around that for a minute.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And this is where they've always pushed what they call trickle-down economics. Yeah. And I think it's a smart thing, and I think that's what Trump did when he got in the office by putting that money back into people's hands.
Yeah.
They were able to expand their business.
Yep.
They were able to hire more people. And that $85 million went to other people to make money to live. And now that the government's pulling all that back, we can see that companies are restricting. In fact, in California, they raised the minimum wage to $20 an hour. And guess what? Closing. Their stores are closing.
Yeah.
And they are laying people off.
Yeah. Well, it's a sad thing to see when people don't really understand economics.
Yeah.
And it's an easy thing to get somebody who hasn't had much time in the world to understand it, to convince them that it's something other than it is.
Now, people will ask me, who do you think won the debate? And I've had to say that I am a little biased, but not so much that I think that Trump is the end-all of all solutions for everything. But between the two men, I do like Trump. And I would say Trump won this debate.
Sure.
And I find this next video funny.
Yeah.
There's something not quite right. First, we're going to see Biden get off a stage, and this wasn't broadcast on TV last night. This is picked up by Sky News out of Australia.
Yeah.
And you'll see his cognitive ability go down here. But the next video after that is very, very unusual video for me.
Sure.
So here we go.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Wow.
Yeah. What do you say?
It's like a kindergartner. Oh, you're so good. You answered all the questions.
And that was my first thought, too, is she's treating him like a toddler. And I think he's, 20 years older than she is?
I think so. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that.
And she's just so excited that he did such a fantastically good job and all of this stuff and built it up. But I thought it was interesting. As he's getting off the stage, you could see in his mind he's concentrating on not falling, on going from here to there. And they cut off, and we didn't get to see that until just now.
Well, I think we see this in Revelation chapter 17 and verse 12 and 13. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but have received power as kings 1 hour with the beast, and have one mind, and shall give their power and their strength unto the beast." And I think what it's saying is they're weak world leaders. They're gonna be strong. They're gonna look like they're strong, but they're gonna be so weak they're gonna give all their power over to the beast after 1 hour. And I think we see the falling down of society.
Yep.
I think we see the corruption and immorality of society is because of our weak leaders.
Yeah, and I think it has to go that way for the end times.
Yes.
We have to crumble as a society worldwide, and we see that worldwide crumble right now. Leaders aren't what they really are. The economy's gone. We're trying to do a great reset where everybody has a living wage. It's going to be a communistic type of thing. Everything's going to one world something, one world government, one world economy, one world religion.
Well, until next week, read your Bibles, pray every day, and I hope you've made the decision to follow Jesus. We'll talk to you later.